Hey there, Leo. So let's have a look at your season ahead. So this is the forecast for the June solstice right the way through to the September equinox 2024. I've said June solstice rather than summer solstice because, you might be in your winter if you're listening in from Australia. So I'm trying to keep it as respectful as possible. Anyway, I'm looking at these forecasts from two perspectives. So the first one is very much about the 4 quarters of the, I guess these show the Capricorn point, the Aries point, the Cancer point, the Libra point. These are the 4 points of the solstices and equinoxes starting the new seasons. And there's a little bit to recognize about all of them. So what I want to do is tell a bit about the background story of what you've been learning in the last season and what came up in the shadow side of that. And then how that relates to you in this season and the shadow side of what might be going on in this season. Also talking about the adventures with Jupiter that can be going on, which is really a place of opportunity. And also the gift of the season, really honing in on the miracle and sometimes the nightmare of the North Node. And then in part 2, I'm talking about the new moons and full moons during this season. So for instance, this is the season we're talking about. And I'm going to refer to each of the star signs in this season as the zodiac months, not the actual calendar months, but the zodiac month of Cancer, the zodiac month of Leo, and the zodiac month of Virgo. These are the ones that we're exploring. And this is where we've got our new moons. Every single time in a season, we have the new moons in the signs of the season. And then the full moons are always in opposition. So as we start this June season, the very first moon we're going to explore is actually the full moon that's happening today on the day I'm recording this, the 22nd of June, full moon in Capricorn, followed by the new moon in Cancer, then a full moon in Capricorn, a new moon in Leo, and so on and so forth. It's always going backwards and forwards. So the new moons are really showing us our opportunities, and the full moons are really showing us maybe the shadow sides and the difficulties and what happens when energies get too much on one side and how we kind of flip to the other side. We're always looking at the two sides of every coin. So let's just start off looking at the overview of this. So you've been given this fresh start as the sun goes into the sign of Cancer. Every year that this happens, it starts the new season by really, I think, you're going into a place of dreaminess, possibly sleepiness, a time of this time of year naturally shows you how you are coming out of yourself, how you're forgetting who you are, how you are losing the sense of who you are, how you are trying to escape who you are, which sounds really quite treacherous, but it's a natural part of everybody's process. At some point in the year, we come into this. I hear some people talking about the not self when they're talking about human design. And I really like the idea of not self because, this 12th house is really showing us our not conscious self. It's showing us everything that's unconscious. And as such, it's unseen. Our intuition's there, our psychic abilities there, but also all the memories of the past and things like that. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And it's a natural time when we tend to come out of the public, we almost take ourselves out of production. We are almost on a retreat, locked in our room in a cave somewhere. It's like our hibernation, and everybody has a hibernation time each year. So this is your natural hibernation time. And then as the sun goes into the sign of Leo around the 20th of July, that's when you are waking up. That's when your yearly alarm clock goes off, and it's time to stretch, get out of bed and say, okay, I'm back. So, it's a bit like when you've had one of those really, really long days and you have to go to sleep, because if you don't go to sleep, you won't have enough energy for the next day. So you're having this very deep sleep so that you can wake up refreshed as the Leo energy starts. Now, one of the things to bear in mind with this restful period from now until the 20th of July is that as much as you're trying to relax and switch off, the full moons, in particular, the one on the 22nd of June and then also on the 21st of July, they are really trying to pull you back into yourself, back into your life, back into the practicalities of running your home, your job, your finances, your health, and all those things. And so what I would absolutely suggest you do is, if it's too much for you to handle and that you actually just want to rest and relax, that you might actually pay somebody to do some of the nitty-gritty for you, or somehow get things managed for you. You might even decide, if you can't afford to have somebody manage certain parts of your life for you, that in this month ahead, you're going to ease off on washing and ironing, or whatever it is. You might do your washing, you might have someone do your ironing, or you might just say, you know what, I'm just going to give myself a break. Another way of handling it might just be to do a tiny amount of chores every day. I've seen, and maybe it comes up on my phone because I need it, who knows, but I've seen these little adverts for apps that help you manage your life, that give you a little reminder to do a 10-minute job. And it breaks your life down into these little increments. So it feels like you're being accountable to something. And allegedly, it really, really helps you to manage your life really beautifully. If you think the 6th house is really about organization, and it is about maintaining everything, pulling it together, tidying things up, neatening things up, it really has an energy of resolving issues. And so you might also find something like that really, really helpful, and it gives you more time to relax and unwind. And I think the more you can plan how to manage the nitty-gritty so that you can relax, the better off you'll be. When you are waking up and coming back into yourself, towards the end of July, leading on to I think the 21st of August, something like that, 22nd of August, you are back in your zone. And then the energy is, okay, who am I going to recreate myself to be? So it's almost like the season before, or not the season, the month before, you're almost uncreating yourself, like destroying yourself, and then you're coming back to life in a new form. And so you might decide, how do I want to be? How do I want to be known as? How do I want to look? Is my image the right one for me? What do people know about my personality, etc., etc.? And so it's like a chance of recreation, a chance of choice. So be playful with it. Don't miss this opportunity. This is a really, really great time to get ready to enjoy being you, and it's enjoying being you for the next year, because as the sun crosses into this part of your chart, it's going all the way around. But this is the birthing point. This is like you coming back into yourself for the whole year. So this is a very important reset for you. So make good decisions about who you want to be and how you want to show up as. A bit like, when you go into a new relationship, you can be a new person. I know that, having lived in 4 or 5 different countries, in each country, it is a new start. You get this sense of, well, nobody knows me here. I'm free to be myself. And you might find that if you've moved around your country a lot as well. So this is a recreation point. This is a point for you to make better decisions based on who you have been. And let's examine that, actually, because in the last season, there was a big emphasis, as the astrological new year started, to explore and be adventurous and to consider new possibilities. There was a lot of emphasis on living the best life you could. And, there's a lot of these phrases about that I see bandied around on the tops of blogs about living your best life and this, that, and the other. I might have even used that phrase on one of my thumbnails, who knows? But, the whole idea that the pressure of, you have to do it now, because if you don't do it now, you might miss it. And you hear about the FOMO, the fear of missing out. And so I think that puts a lot of pressure on people. And if you're naturally curious, you might have found that time in your life was actually quite useful around March. And then as April came in, the natural flow of energy was about you kind of putting yourself on show and saying, okay, well, this is my career now. You know, I'm going into career mode, and, you know, I've expanded myself recently. I've got a bit more exciting. I've been a bit more adventurous. And look, this is the knock-on effect it's having on my career. But meanwhile, when you were doing that, you were also learning the pain of coming outside of yourself. Because, you know, when you were being adventurous and like being fear of missing out, you were actually kind of stepping away from your local community, your local friends, your local knowledge, your local knowing. You were stepping away from your original blueprint, or maybe stepping away a little bit from your original program. And then when you're in this place of, well, I've recreated myself, look how exciting I am, it was then you were missed at home, or missed within the family, or you grew a little bit apart. And so I do think in this last season, one of the things that has gone on has been this separation that's been coming up. And so in this, you know, new year that you're celebrating now, as you're coming into this new season, and then the start of your new personal year, isn't it a good time maybe to think in terms of, how can I feel connected after a separation? How can I feel the balance between me and everyone else? How can I feel a beautiful cohesion? You might choose to recreate yourself using questions to do with togetherness rather than separation. Just a thought. As you ended the last season, and things got quite exciting, you know, Jupiter went into the sign of Gemini, and that was just after the very strong and impactful Uranus and Jupiter conjunction in your 10th house. I think things got so full of possibility, and lots of people were really buying into your ideas, and it felt like there were lots of friends and people that were coming up from all these unusual places just wanting to surprise and delight you. It almost felt like things were starting to move forwards. And yet, when you get people so engaged in what you're doing, all of a sudden it ceases to be your idea anymore. And that's where the big pressure comes from. And that's why I think as you're starting this season, you're coming back into yourself a little bit. You're thinking, okay, well, that time around the astrological dial, that was good. I learned a lot. And actually now I want to learn how I can manage my own projects and yet create something of value. I want to learn how to be really, really me without necessarily coming out of my local environment, you know. So I think, you know, you might be thinking about living a magnificent life, but maybe without all of the costs, you know. So there's a lot of different things coming up. As you head into the last part of the season, the Virgo side of the season, at the end of August, leading into the end of September, until the 22nd of September, when the 22nd, 23rd of September, when the next season starts, then you are heading into a place where you're recognizing your personal value. So it feels like whatever you're recreating for yourself, there is a sense of surety, there's a sense of security, there's a sense of, this is my value. Wow, what a great value I've got. And you might even start to receive a little bit. You might be ready to put your prices up. You might be ready to make a declaration about what it is you do. You might get clearer about what you do and communicate it. You know, this is a time to really up your game in terms of your finances and in terms of how maybe people see you. And all of it really rests on the underpinning of how you see yourself. Are you comfortable being you? Do you trust in your vision? Do you trust that you have all the skills in place to be able to meet the needs of your clients? Do you have it all? And if not, what do you need to learn? So there is a lot of you coming into your value. Now, with this, I think Jupiter has created an opportunity, and that opportunity is that when you're ready, there are people really wanting to get involved with you. There are lots of people that are excited about what it is that you represent. There are people that just like your energy and want to be around you. And there are people that are excited by your vision and want a piece of that. So there is a great opportunity there. And you may well have found that you've been connected into some very powerful people too, which could really have a knock-on effect and take you off in new directions. That's all great. You might also want to consider the costs of what that gift brings. Every opportunity, obviously, there are two sides to every coin, but that opportunity is there throughout this whole season. So, the more you find out about yourself and the more people become excited by knowing you and feeling your vibration, the more opportunities there are. The other gift of this season, again, I started this story, really talking about how you started your astrological year being as far out as you could be, being adventurous, exploring the unknown, diving into all sorts of subjects and really wanting a sense of adventure, almost really needing it. Now the North Node is starting to come to the end of his time in Aries. He's not there yet, but he will do, and he will eventually, or the North Node, I'm calling him he, but the North Node will pass into the sign of Pisces in due course in 2025. But this North Node, everything that you're learning about what's out there is coming to an end, including the challenges of it. So you may well have expanded your views in recent times, and you might have a completely different idea of the political landscape, the spiritual landscape, religions, and all sorts of different things and how it all fits in together. And because of this new perspective, you might also want to be sharing that with other people. And one of the hard learnings, I think, of the ninth house is, nobody wants to know what you've learned, really. Even people that ask rarely want to know. If you think about it, and I'm somebody who's lived abroad many times and gone home and then gone away again. And I know from my own experience, when I go and live in another country and I want to tell people about the lovely experiences I've had, and did I tell you I'd lived in Bali and all this stuff, it turns people off. Nobody's actually interested. They might want to find out how you are. They might be interested to see a few videos or a few photos. But for most people, they are in their own vibe. They're living their own life. They're living it to the best of their intentions. And the sort of energy fields that you've come into that might have inspired and uplifted and brought you into a new way of living are actually quite disruptive to all the people around you. And so I think one of the things you have been learning is that even though you're going through great big shifts in your belief systems and in your idea of what life is, not everyone is at the same stage. And when you try and push people to, what you are knowing to be your truth, you get a lot of backlash. So it's quite a difficult one to learn. My best piece of advice I think I can give is just to enjoy your new perspective, your life from your new perspective, and just trust that people know what to do to get themselves to where they need to be. And if they want to know something from you, they'll ask. They really will know how to, they really will come to you if they want your advice. So enjoy the position you're in. And use it as a springboard to learn more, rather than try and instruct other people. Use it as a curiosity and think, well, I've learned this much and look how much it's enriched my life. How much more could I learn? How much better can it get than this? And use it as a transformation for yourself. So anyway, let's have a look at how these might play out in terms of the full moons and new moons. So the full moons in Capricorn, on the 22nd, that's today I'm recording this, and on the 21st of July, are really bringing you into the harsh reality of life. And so even though at the moment you're drifting away and wanting to have a little bit of quiet time and really come into yourself, I have to say, as I always forget, my husband's got a Leo ascendant, and then actually just in this last week, he has been talking about, I need to back down. I need to relax. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And I've almost felt a bit offended, like, why are you coming out of our life together? And actually all he's doing this. He's doing exactly what I'm saying. He is actually wanting to rest and recover. It's the end of his zodiac year and it's time for hibernation. I'm very grateful that I've done this, actually. That's going to make a difference. And actually, these full moons are the times when you need to reduce any kind of busyness. So anywhere where you're booking yourself back in to do more and more and more, you might choose to go easy on yourself. Don't plan in loads around these weekends. Don't plan loads around these actual dates. Relax. Give yourself a moment to come back to your own senses and just go easy on yourself. The new moon, however, on the 5th, let this be a time to explore yourself. Let this be a time to retreat into yourself. Let this be a time of beauty, nourishment, and kindness. This would be a great time to have a session with somebody that you really trust. If there's somebody out there who's a counselor or a coach, or, someone quite dynamic that can help you see new sides of yourself, because the 12th house is all about your own secrets and what you're keeping hidden. So this could be a really good time to start something new for yourself. Then as we're going into August, we've got the new moon on the 4th in the sign of Leo. That is bringing yourself back to you. This is about you shining. So you might decide to do something that is going to help you evolve. For instance, a lot of Leo ascendants are speakers. They're people that want to speak out and say things. You might think about vocal training, or, anything that's going to enhance your persona, the brand that is you. It's time for you to give yourself a bit of a zhuzh. You might even find that around the time of the new moon that you're really wanting to do something in terms of your image. I always think that when you have your hair cut around the time of the new moon, it really helps to bring your hair into a new growth phase. And the sign of Leo is absolutely known for hair. So this is actually one of the best times of the year for people with my kind of hair, like long hair, that you want to grow it back thicker and more beautiful. That's your time to do it. Anyway, so it's very much about your image and your persona and how you can use that energy. The full moon in Aquarius is one to watch out for on the 19th, because it's stirring things up between you and partners. You might find that your partners feel a little bit irrational, a little bit emotional, and so anything you can do to manage the impact of people in your life. You might choose, if there's somebody going through something, find ways to practically help them, but really make it clear that, where your love and commitment starts and ends, and let them know that you can only help people to the level that you can go to without harming yourself. If you can express that better than I've just done, which I'm sure you can, then hopefully your intentions to be loving and supportive without hurting yourself will be really, really properly heard. The new moon in Virgo on the 2nd is really there to show you where your skills are and to sort of maybe help you with your administration and with the nitty gritty of how you determine your value. There are probably people out there that can help you understand your marketing or whatever it is that you need to do to be able to be seen, to be able to be detected, to get that new job, whatever it is that you're working on. And then the 18th of September, you've got this full moon in Pisces. It's the first eclipse of the second eclipse season. It's probably quite shocking because it's in a conjunction with Neptune. So I always think things that are attached to Neptune can bring about lots of beautiful soul changes, but also bring about a knowledge of where we might be getting deceived or where we might whip ourselves into a frenzy. So it is time to pay a lot of discernment to this full moon. It's also in the 8th house, which is a bit of a blind spot. It's also a place of blame, shame, guilt, and anger. And I imagine that guilt will be a real hallmark of this one. So if you've got someone who is a guilt thrower and you're a guilt catcher, watch out around this time, just saying. Last thing I want to let you know about, and that's Mercury retrograde, which starts on the 4th at 4 degrees in the sign of Virgo. It's the 4th of August. And then it heads back into Leo, 21 degrees Leo, before it goes forwards on the 28th of August. During this time, it's almost saying, hey, you haven't quite determined your value fully enough. So yes, here is what you think you're really gifting the world with, but you need to go back into yourself a little bit more, dive a little bit more deeply. And then from the 28th of August, you really do know your true value. So there you go, Leo Ascendant. I hope that was helpful for you. Lots of love.